It's time now for AM Business, and the National Petroleum Authority says it is engaging LPG marketers to ward off shortages of liquefied petroleum gas going forward. Now, this comes after a shortage of LPG hit some parts of the country. James Shen has been engaging the head of economic regulation at the NPA, that is the National Petroleum Authority, Abbas Tasunti, and he came through with this.
Led to this particular challenge?
Okay, so I'm sure you are talking about the concern that have been raised about the possible shortage of LPG. So actually, there was an operational challenge at some of the depots after the recent LPG vessel that came to discharge, completed discharge. What is done is that when the completion of discharge is done, there has to be a reconciliation at all the depots, and then the quantity certificates are signed off by all parties. But I think there were some unusual losses at some of the depots. I think they discharged about 4 depots, and then they had issues with some of them. The concern was that some of the losses at the depots were above the norm. So the supplier had to discuss with the receivers to agree on what the standard allowable losses are for them to sign off. I think that discussion is what delayed a little bit. So I think I heard concerns being raised that it was store. It's not actually Tor alone. There were about 4 different depots. All of them had similar issues. As we speak this morning, all those issues have been resolved. The reconciliation has been completed. The quantity certificate at Tor has been signed now. TFC has been signed. The TMPT has been signed as well. The other depot matrix, as I speak, I just ended a meeting with the supplier. That's also been agreed. It's also been signed. So all the depots, I think the only outstanding depot was Quantum, which has also a way forward has been agreed to agree on what outend quantity should be used. So all of that has been signed. The quantities are now being uploaded into the ERDMS so that the BDCs can now sell to the LPGM. So I think in less than an hour, sales should start from the depots, and that should address the concerns about a possible shortage of LPG.
And is there a timeline? You've spoken about the engagement so far. Some are saying in the next 2-3 days also. Is there a timeline? When are we to expect this end?
Oh, actually, like I said, the products are already in the depot, so the reconciliation has been completed now. So the volumes have been uploaded into the ERDMS, and sales will start actually in less than an hour.
Now, there have been a concern. Somewhere last year, I did a similar report on gas shortage, and we're here this time. What is the regulator doing or measures putting in place to ensure that we don't find ourselves in this situation every year?
So actually, one of our main tasks is to ensure that there's always products available for consumers. And I'm sure it is very unusual to hear that there's any shortage of any petroleum products in Ghana. Sometimes when these issues happen, it's an operational issue. As we speak, we have more than 3 weeks of LPG to last. In fact, almost a month. And we've introduced what we call the tender program, LPG tender program, where we import the quantities in bulk for all the suppliers, and they supply to the BIDEX, to the OMCs, and the LPGMCs. We've been doing this from the beginning of the year. We've not had any shortage. And because we've coordinated the imports, we don't even expect this. This is the safe cargo that is being imported under the tender. It's like I explained, it was just an operational issue at the depots with regards to the reconciliation, which has been addressed now. So from our end, we always ensure that we do the monitoring, and we have put in place measures to avert any shortage of petroleum products. So there's no cause for concern at all.
So we should be hopeful that going forward we wouldn't experience such a thing?
Yeah, so actually operational issues are things that can come up. The most important thing is that when they come up, what do we do? And like I've said, this has been resolved, and we will just look at the cause of this and then provide clarity as to how some of these reconciliations are done going forward.
Not to catch you, but one may say, why not be proactive when you know definitely there will be operational issues? Why don't we be proactive to ensure that, what's going forward, we don't find ourselves in such situations?
So I think proactive, yes, there's clarity on some of these issues. Like I said, this is a safe cargo that's being imported under the tender this year. The first 5, we never had any issues. This safe one was from a different supplier, and that's how come I think some of these issues came up. But we've had a meeting. We are going to provide more clarity as to how some of these reconciliations are done going forward, so that we don't have the situation where a supplier comes and there's misunderstanding as to what number should be used for reconciliation. So I think that it's also a learning curve for us. It shows that we have to get every supplier to understand clearly some of these guidelines, and that resolves the issue. So we'll be proactive going forward in terms of letting the suppliers know what the way forward is, and we'll put this clearly on paper.
News.